Welcome, sir. Hope I am audible to you, sir.
I'm sorry. Here in the ministry, it is very, very difficult, to get time. And I was just called at the just nick of the time by the secretary at a meeting there. So, yeah, I'm sorry for my.
No problem, sir. We can understand, sir.
So everybody.
Good to have you, sir.
Huh?
Good to have you, sir, and good to see you after so long.
So everybody is online, or they are in person in your college or university?
No, sir. Everyone, sir, it's a virtual training, sir. Everyone is online, sir.
I see.
I will first, sir, introduce you, and I will also brief you about the training program, and sir, then you can start your lecture, sir. Will that be fine, sir?
Yeah.
Sure, sir. Sure. So welcome back, dear participants. Welcome once again in the 21 days training program on forest management for sustainable use of natural resources. And as I mentioned earlier, that under the theme of policy interventions, there could not be better speakers than the senior IFS officers. And we are really fortunate to have in the first half Khanduri Saab, who briefed us about the policy interventions and various legislation at the country level. And now we are really fortunate to have Shri Jigme Takpa Saab, and he will be talking about the policy interventions in biodiversity conservation in India under the international framework. So I would take this opportunity to welcome him, and let me also give a brief bio of Takpa Saab. Shri Jigme Takpa Saab is an officer of the Indian Forest Service from Jammu and Kashmir cadre, because earlier it was Jammu and Kashmir cadre, and presently serving as Joint Secretary and heading the desertification cell at the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India. He is also the national focal point for the UNCCD, what we call is United Nations Convention to combat desertification for India. Takpa Saab pioneered, biodiversity conservation, rural development, and renewable energy in Ladakh. And as I earlier mentioned, I have been fortunate, and it's an honor to work with him when I was, doing my PhD on snow leopards in Ladakh. He was the CF and then later CCF of Jammu and Kashmir, and he has established a benchmark, in the Himalaya. His initiatives to address the development and conservation challenges facing Ladakh's, fragile ecosystem include establishing a flagship projects, for example, Project Snow Leopard, in identifying, devising, and adapting suitable technologies for efficiency managing the natural resources of the high altitude Himalayan regions. And that work has been a benchmark as well as, replicated across the Central and Southern Asian Himalayan region, as well as the other states in the country. He conceptualized the livelihood improvement programs and Project Snow Leopard for the Ladakh region, and adopted a landscape level approach. As you know, in one of the lecture from the Wildlife Institute of India, we were talking about going ahead than the protected area management to the landscape level approach to biodiversity conservation. So he has been pioneer in that. His efforts resulted in a rapid growth in the population of snow leopards, bar-headed geese, black-necked crane, wild yaks, Asiatic ibex, and Tibetan antelope, what we popularly call as chiru. With the success of Project Snow Leopard is the brainchild of Takpa Saab, and that turned Ladakh into the snow leopard capital of the world. The Ladakh ecotourism project has directly benefited the local communities of that area. The Ladakh Renewable Energy Initiative vastly, the long-standing problem of energy shortage in Ladakh region, and reduce the tremendous expenditure of the government of India in sustaining the energy sector in Ladakh. Takpa Saab has been conferred various prestigious awards for his landmark work in the region, such as the Indira Gandhi Paryavaran Puraskar, the Earth Hero Award by the Royal Bank of Scotland, the State Award for meritorious public service, Jammu and Kashmir, the Indira Priyadarshini Vikramitra Award, the Renew Tech Award for Best Nodal Agency, and the Gyalwang Drupka Award and so on. So the list is too long to recognize his incredible and tremendous amount of work. He has also figures in the book of Guinness World Records for the most planted trees simultaneously in 2011. Takpa Saab is also, with a brief background, is a graduate of the ICFRE MSc in 1990 and the National Institute of Technology, Srinagar, where he gained his bachelor honors degree in engineering in 1997. So with this brief introduction, I would now request Takpa Saab to please enrich our knowledge with his valuable lecture today. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Thank you so much. And I would like to, I would not like to, I will take pardon from all of you, but I was a bit late because at the nick of the time, I was called for a meeting with the secretary, and that I could not, object to it, and therefore some few minutes I got wasted in that. So coming to this very topic, this is a very the burning topic, the biodiversity conservation. So this is a topic, though it is very dear to me, but within the ministry, I'm not at all dealing with this because I'm dealing with one of the convention, as Mr. Aishwarya has said. I'm looking after the UN CCD, UN Convention to Combat Desertification. And I think many people must not be knowing what this convention must be looking after, because even I had no idea till I joined the ministry. So coming to the topic that they have given today is about biodiversity conservation, the national regulation and the policy intervention and international obligation that India is committed to, especially to the UN Convention to Biodiversity. So, though it is not my domain, I will try to give a background idea about the whole issue of the biodiversity in India, the forestry, wildlife, the protected area, and we will slowly come to the biodiversity aspect of the India, and we'll see what are the international convention on biodiversity and what are their bodies, how it function, and what are the key functions of the UNCBD, and what India has responded and how India is committed to this very convention. So this is a, though I've done some small work, though I don't get much time to do a real detailed preparation for this. I had just compiled from, you can say cut and paste it, but I can explain, I know the subject. I know the subject very well in the terms biodiversity, because I was working in Ladakh, as Mr. Aishwarya said. I was working on the biodiversity conservation in the area of Ladakh and Project Himalaya and Project Swan Leopard and biodiversity conservation and rural livelihood improvement project and renewable energy. Those things I have done on the ground. So therefore, I have some idea about the biodiversity. So coming to, I will go very fast because I have so many slides to make. If I can share the screen, let me see.
So please, you can share it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see how you can share. I don't know.
Sir, it's a green button, sir, at the bottom, sir, center. Share screen. Yeah.
Can it be seen? I don't know.
Sir, just a moment. No, sir, you can just, sir, click on the share. First, sir, open your presentation and then, sir, click, whichever. Yeah.
So now I can directly put it that slide.
Yes, sir. Biodiversity conservation, sir. We can see that.
Huh?
Yes, sir. You can go to the slideshow full screen mode, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Great, sir. We can see it, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Completely perfect.
So
yeah.
I will go fast, and at the end we can have a detailed discussion about the biodiversity conservation and how it entails to the commitment that India has made and how India is faring in the international fora. I think everybody at the end of the presentation will feel proud that, though we think that in India that biodiversity conservation, forestry issues are pollution level are very, very high. But when you really see from our own prospect that India is doing extremely well. Before I start this presentation, I would like to share that you will never find any country in the world as diverse as India. Geographically, if you see, you have all the diversity, geographical diversity, geomorphological diversity. You have the highest rainfall in India, the Cherrapunji. We have the driest land, the Thar Desert. We have the coldest inhabited area in the world in Ladakh. We have the highest mountain chain, the biggest mountain chain in the world, that is Himalaya, and a peninsula that is we go deep dive into the ocean. And there's one ocean. There's only one ocean named after a country, that is Indian Ocean. All other oceans are named differently, but we have an ocean which is named after the Indian Ocean, because the Indian subcontinent directly goes deep into the ocean itself, and it is surrounded by three sides by the ocean. So therefore, India is a country, geographically, it has the tropical area, temperate area, and alpine area. So you can imagine the climatically, you have so much diversity. And at the same time, we have area precipitation, which is totally in different places, it is different. Spatially and temporally, we have highly diverse rainfall and temperature. So therefore, the whole ecosystem has evolved in such a way that we have different ecosystem. And India is geographically diverse, as well as biodiversity is, therefore it is very rich, because it evolves to adapt to a particular ecosystem. So coming to conservation, conservation is in our blood, actually, to be very frank, and if you look back, the Western world is trying to teach the world about the conservation, but our conservation dates back to 5th century AD. You can see this Vajna Valkya Samiti. There is a historic text which statecraft and jurisprudence suggests that they have been written before 5th century, which prohibits cutting of tree and prescription of punishment long back in 5th century. When this the whole Western country must be nomads, even I don't know whether they were there. And during Chandragupta reign, we had the what called forest department, you say Kupidia Yaksha, that is superintendent, and one Palas, that is forest guard, that we have now, that was there in the time of Chandragupta Maurya. And Kautilya Arthashastra also says about classification of forest, tree, fixing price for the tree, and imposing fine those who fell tree without permission. So all this classification of forest was way back during time of Kautilya. And in Ashoka time, all the Ashok pillar express about the welfare of environment, biodiversity, protection of animal, forest, and classification of forest. All these things were there in our history that dates very back to the historic time, ancient times. So with biodiversity fact, we have all kind of forests in India, like tropical rainforest, deciduous forest, mangrove forest, subtropical, mountain, alpine, all kind of forest and fauna are there. So it's so diverse. And now coming to some facts about Indian biodiversity. India is one of the 12 mega biodiversity region in the world. One of the 12. And we have, and another facts I will give, India landmass is only 2.4% of the world. Only 2.4% of the world. And we get a rainfall of only 4%. We have a population of 18% of the world, 17% of the world cattle. So you can just imagine how much pressure we have on the land. Despite this fact, we have the diversity which is far more disproportionate and higher than the land we have. So we have 7.6% of the world mammal, 12.6% of the avian species, 6.2% of the reptiles, and 6% of the flowering plant. That too is only in 2.4% of the world land mass. So there you can well establish, imagine how rich our country is. We have a system of protection like national park, protected area, established way back in 1935, and that has been substantially expanded. And we have the Wildlife Protection Act, Project Tigers in 1972. And because of that, the protected area network in the country has increased dramatically. You know, we have 18 biosphere reserve, more than 500 wildlife sanctuary, and we have network of biosphere reserve and 49 wetland. And India is among the country where we have a large number of Ramsar site. So the ministry came into being, only in 1985. Earlier, the rules regulation were there. The Indian Forest Act was in 1927, and beyond that, also in 1886, the Indian Forest Act was established by the Britishers. That has been amended time and again, and mainly because to cater to the present situation. Earlier, during the British time, the Forest Protection Act was mainly for the extraction of timber for their own commercial use. Only forest and the biodiversity was looked at as a commodity. After 1990, everything has changed. That the government has made the forest more for conservation and as well as for the intended use for the local public. As for the report of the FAO, by 2010 study, we say that India is among the 10 countries with the largest forest cover in the world. I think this news must be, a bit incredible for people, because we always think that our environment forest is degrading. We are in a very bad state. That is the media's projection. And another thing is that India is also one of the top 10 countries with largest primary forest. Primary forest means the virgin forest, the forest with actually it been untouched and undisturbed, and that is that evolves to a level of the is epitome, and that kind of a which having diversity and having all kind of forests, which tree and forest with variety which is adapted to a particular region. So those are called primary forest. If you look at the Europe, you will find only 2 or 3 different species of conifer. It is all or only one type of forest. Here we have such a diverse forest, and the primary forest which has not been touched, and it is adapted and reached to climax species. So those forests reaching to a climax species, which is the main dominant species in that area, having so much of diversity. And in 1990 to 2000, and India is among the 5th largest gainer in terms of forest cover in the world. And from 2000 to 2010, and India became the 3rd largest gainer in forest cover. So this figures might not be that you can really digest, because it is always stated that our forest and everything is in a very bad shape, but it is not. Recently, a NASA study was there which says that the world is greener now. compared to 20 years back because of two countries. They named two countries because of that the world is getting greener. It is one is the China, second is India. So that is a NASA study. So to take care of this, it is the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change with so many legislation, Forest Rights Act, Indian Forest Act of 1927, Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. It is amended in 2003, and we have a protected area which covers 156,700 square kilometers, which is roughly 4.95. Now it is 5.1. It is a bit old number. And forestry in India, I don't want to go in detail because already we have said enough on that. I can share the whole presentation with Aishwarya, who can share to the other people. About the forest type, we have, it is classified on the quality of the forest, which is we have very dense forest, moderate forest, open forest, mangrove forest, and non-forest. No, we say non-forest lands. So dense forests are, if it is the ground density of a forest is more than 70%, then is we say very dense forest. The proportion of very dense forest is very less, it's hardly 3%, you know. So that is also a alarming state. Now we have the area wise we have more, but the quality wise it is a bit decreasing. Moderate forest is between ground density between 40 to 70, and the open forest is 10 to 40. So, and apart from that, we have other forests like mangrove, which is also say dense forest, moderate and open. And non-forest is defined as land without any vegetation. That is, apart from that, we have scrub cover, tree cover, and tree cover outside forest, tree forest outside forest. So those are also categorized as forest, though it may be not be a protected forest or a reserve forest. Those are forest cover, which are patches along the roads or any area, any tree cover with having more than 1 hectare of area that is covered under the tree cover. So it also makes a significant contribution in the term of agroforestry. So National Forest Commission was formed in 2003. They have given a lot of recommendations. So these are the recommendations I think I will share with you. If you, I don't need to go one by one. Mainly to how to conserve forest and how to make it available for the local community. So that and the National Forest Policy drives many inputs and recommendations from National Forest Commission and how to take forward the various projects and program in forestry is done. We get the information and the recommendation from the National Forest Commission, which was formed in 2003, and how much investment is required to pursue our goal from to cover the forestry from 20% to 33%. So we required about $26 billion to take our policy from at present is 24%. To take it to 33%, we required almost $26 billion. But that much of investment, I don't think so we can ever see in forestry sector. Now coming to the Convention on Biodiversity, the main topic today given to me. In 1992, when the world gathered, all the world leaders gathered to deliberate under the UN convention to what are the main challenges that world faces and how could it correlate and do in conjunction with the conservation with the development. So that UN Convention on Development and Conservation in 1992 was held in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. So it is also called the World Summit. So there were three main recommendations that it has come up. So out of the Rio Earth Summit, three convention has come up. One is what they say that the biggest issue that environment challenges that world faces was the climate change. So, and another thing, another issue was the loss of biodiversity that was going on throughout the world at an alarming and exponential rate. So therefore, a convention on biodiversity was conceived. And third was because of the climate change, because of the development, because of the change in land use and land cover change. So there was an issue of the land degradation. So there was another convention, that UN Convention to combat desertification. So three conventions that emerged out of the Rio Convention: UNCBD, UNFCCC, and UNCCD. CCD is UN Convention to combat desertification. So this convention on the biodiversity is also called as Biodiversity Convention. It's a multilateral treaty. All the countries, almost all the countries are signatory to this very convention. And this very convention, the Convention on Biodiversity, has three main goals. One is conserve the biological diversity or the biodiversity. Second is to sustainably use of its component and fair and equitable sharing of benefit arising of the genetic resources. So this is one of the most important, the social aspect, social and economic aspect of the conservation, that whatever that component, whatever the natural and biological component that comes out of the biodiversity, it has to be fairly, equitably, it has to be shared. So that is the most important social aspect of this conservation, biodiversity conservation. And third is to develop national strategy for conservation and sustainable use of diversity. And this is to be seen from the perspective of the sustainable development. So this is about the history, how the CBD was formed, when CBD was formed, or all this convention has as a background, the history. Earlier, the main driver for UN CBD is United Nations Environment Program. And earlier to the UN CBD, there was an ad hoc working group of experts on biodiversity. And in 1998, they have delivered a framework for the CBD in Nairobi Declaration. So, as I already stated, it was in the UN Convention Conference on Environment and Development, that the Rio Earth Summit, that this CBD has come up. And by 1993, there was 168 signatories, and it came into force on 29th of December 1993. United States is the only country which has signed the convention but not ratified it, because it required, I think, 2/3 majority in their Senate to ratify this convention. I don't know whether they have still ratified or not. As of now, this convention has 196 countries, almost all the countries, including the European Union. So what are the issues dealt by the UN Convention on UN Biodiversity Convention is the first and foremost is the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity, which I already said. Second thing is that access to genetic resources and traditional knowledge. And this is one of the most important thing, in the sense that it is not only the genetic resources, but all the knowledge, all the traditional knowledge that has to be preserved, because we have so much of unwritten traditional knowledge about the medicine plants, use of medicine plants for various treatments. All these things are not patented. So there is a danger that, you know, biopiracy and patented by other multilateral countries, these resources could be theft. So therefore, this very convention also regulates how to access the genetic resources and traditional knowledge, including prior informed consent from the parties that is providing the resources. If it is taken from India, it has to be taken from the authority to the product as well as knowledge. It has to be recognized, and it has to be without the prior consent, nothing can move. Second thing is that sharing and fair and equitable way the result of the research on the biodiversity for commercial use and genetic use resources, that has to be there has to be fair as well as equitable as well as transparent system of sharing of benefits out of it, and access to transfer of technology, biotechnology to government and local community that provides traditional knowledge and bio resources. Technical and scientific cooperation, coordination at global level of the Directory of Taxonomy, impact assessment, education, providing financial resources for the conservation, and the most important thing is that how you report the national reporting for implementation of the this commitment. So this very convention, the Convention on Biodiversity, has two main protocol, two main framework. One is called Cartagena Protocol, and that is on the Cartagena Protocol is on the biosafety to the Convention to Biodiversity. The genetic material that we have, it could be changed into genetically modified organisms, and the genetic modified organism, how it can be traded, how it could be introduced in another country, how it could be moved to another country or to some other region or some other population. So this protocol of Cartagena protocol then regulates. So it was adopted in 2000. It is a supplementary agreement to the CBD, UN Convention on Biodiversity, and it is very important in the sense that being a international, it is a biosafety, you know, so that biodiversity of an area is not threatened by introduction of a genetically modified organisms. Every country will like to have a genetically modified plant and species that could, they are disease resistant, their production is higher, but at the same time we need to have a full knowledge, a scientific robust knowledge about its effect, its impact on our environment, on impact on the health of individual, and impact on the other species. Until unless you have a complete knowledge how a species will evolve and how this species will, genetically modified species will affect a country or an ecosystem, until unless full knowledge is there, we cannot work. So therefore, this very protocol give a framework how genetically modified organism can be transported, introduced, and propagated in any environment. It is through this protocol, every country has to come up with their own legislations. So how to introduce? Until unless you are 101% sure, we won't be introducing it. So that power is given to the individual country to adopting the genetically modified organisms. Another is Nagoya Protocol. It is also a subsidiary protocol to the UNCBD. This is regarding the access and sharing of the benefit. So Nagoya Protocol, it came in 2010 as a supplementary agreement to the UN Convention to Biological Diversity, with the three main aims. One of the three main of CBD, that is fair and equitable sharing of benefit arising out of utilization of these resources and thereby contributing to conservation and use of biodiversity. And it sets a obligation on the parties mean the countries, to take make rules and regulation so that the resources coming out of the biological diversity is fairly, effectively, and transparently shared and utilized among the various parties. And that was adopted in Nagoya in Japan, and it has been ratified by 128 countries of the UN. So another point in the UNCBD is that National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan. So every country who is the signatory to UN Convention to Convention to Biodiversity, so they have to have a strategy made and action plan how they are going to implement all the points in the UNCBD, as well as is subsidiary bodies like protocol like Nagoya Protocol, the and other earlier this one Katakana Protocol. So and effectively report to this very convention. So they are the nationals reporting strategy has to be made. Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Custom. Sorry, as a secretary's call.
No problem, sir. No problem, sir. We can understand.
Yeah, working in the ministry is very difficult. You know, you don't have your own time that you can just dedicate to some work. So, National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan are to be made and to implement the convention at national level. So country has to make a biodiversity strategy, which include plan and activities, how you're going to achieve the set goals, targets, and the framework which is being made by the UNCBD. Like apart from this very strategies, there are another one. It is called Aichi targets. I think is coming up. I will take it in a later slide. Aichi targets to come up to the level where the UN and the world wants to take a country forward. So we have a Aichi target. So that is also part of the UNCBD. So strategic plan for biodiversity from 2011 to 2020. That decade was launched for strategic plan for biodiversity from 2011 to 20. So that was this document is in the Aichi target. Aichi is a part in a city in Japan. So it has 20 targets and 5 strategic goals. So 5 strategic goals, you can just see what are the 5 strategic goals. You can see it. That is addressing the cause of biodiversity loss, mainstreaming biodiversity. Mainstreaming means how to take the cause of the biodiversity in the governmental system. And strategic goal 2 be reduce direct pressure on biodiversity, promote sustainable use. Strategic number 3 is to improve the status of biodiversity by safeguarding ecosystem, species, and genetic diversity. Strategic goal number 4 is enhance benefit to all the biodiversity and ecosystem services. And strategic number 4 is enhance implementation through participatory planning, knowledge management, and capacity building. These are the strategic goals. And to achieve this goal, there are about 20 targets, 20 Aichi target. And India is among the top 10 countries in the world, which has almost, achieved most of the Aichi targets. So how to now, how to address to the commitment that is done by India, because India is a party to this convention, UN Convention to biological diversity. So as a sovereign country, we have to use our own biological resources, and to realize the objective of UN Convention to Biodiversity, India has enacted Biological Diversity Act 2002. So this very act acts as a main strategy to achieve the commitment to UN Convention to Biodiversity, which is main aim of this act is to conserve the biological resources and associated knowledge all that we have, and facilitating access to them in a sustainable manner and through a just process. So what is the biodiversity in terms of our Biodiversity Act? Biodiversity is defined under the section of the India's Biodiversity Act of 2002. So it is all the organism from all the sources, from all the ecological complexes that are part and include in the diversity of the species or between the species of an ecosystem. This is the definition as of India's Biodiversity Act of 2002. Act also defines the biological resources. One is biodiversity, second is biological resources, all the plants, animal, microorganisms or their parts or genetic material, excluding the value-added products with actual or potential use, but does not include the human genetic material. Human genetic material is not part of our biodiversity, but rest all products of genetic material and the products and plants and animal are biological resources as per the Biodiversity Act of 2002. So to implement the Act, so an authority was made that is called National Biodiversity Authority. So in exercise of power conferred under the subsection 1 and 4 of Section A of Biological Diversity Act of 2002, the central government established a body called National Biodiversity Authority on October 2003. And this very authority, National Biodiversity Authority, is a statutory autonomous body with headquartered in Chennai under the Ministry of the Environment Forest and established in 2002 to implement the Biological Diversity Act of 2002. And it is at the national level, and it has been established in all the states. That is called State Biodiversity Board in the 29 states, and we have committees to implement those. There are 31,576 biological management committee to regulate the act. Main function of the authority: lay down the procedure and guidelines to go on the activity. All the obtaining biological resources, transferring or for collaboration, or to advise government in notifying the threatened species, designate institution as repository, exempt certain biological resources for trade as commodity, to encourage State Biodiversity Board to build database and documentation system about biodiversity, and to create awareness and through mass media, through training, necessary measure in the area of intellectual property right. So all those things are the work of the hello. I'll tell the people. Sorry.
No problem, sir.
So these are the function of National Biodiversity Authority, which has been stated in detailed earlier. And regulation, these are the regulations, you know, I don't need to read all the things. People must be getting bored. Benefit sharing, how the benefits are shared between the parties, between the owners, how it is transferred, about the location, research, and all the area, payment for compensation if the resources are taken from a area, setting up a venture capital fund for aiding the cost benefit claims, all the things, how these are shared, these are regulated by the National Biodiversity Authority. And if there is any person who violates it, there is a provision for penalties. Some person can be punishable for that can be go up to 5 years with fine. You maybe and fine up to almost 10 lakh when damage exceeds 10 lakh rupees. Or if the damage is extremely high, it can change the penalty which commensurate with the total damage it is done. So, and any offense under this is non-bailable and it is a cognizable offense. So, apart from that, Government of India has digitalized the local knowledge, because all the local knowledge that we have, like Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, Yoga, even we have in Ladakh, we have Amchi medicines. There's so much of knowledge is there, but these are not patented. So therefore, their traditional knowledge, digital library has been made, and in 2010, in collaboration with Council for Scientific and Industrial Research and Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, all the documents has been it has been digitalized in the library, and that so that there is no biopiracy. So there is no unethical patent on the knowledge that India has. So this kind of a step has been taken. As of now, so many books on Ayurveda, Unani, and yoga and other things has been transcribed or translated, or it's been digitalized in the traditional knowledge digital library. Data on 80,000 formulation in Ayurveda, 1 million on Unani, 12,000 in Siddha. All has been put into this digital library, so that no other country or individual can do a piracy or the unethical patent of the knowledge that India has. So another thing is that in indigenous intellectual property, this is a knowledge that we have as a community. There are many knowledge, there are many intellectual property that we have, which is maybe written, maybe oral, maybe a cultural heritage, which has not been documented or not has been patented. Those indigenous intellectual property are also been protected through international organizations like World Intellectual Property Organization, which was created in 1970 to protect the intellectual property across the world by cooperating countries, so that no other country can do a biopiracy or unethical patenting of the knowledge that a community has it. So even UN Declaration on Right of Indigenous People, it is signed by almost most of the countries, so that the knowledge of indigenous people are not pirated. So these are the indigenous intellectual property for the biodiversity. And there's another act that is in India, that is Protection of Plant Variety and Farmers' Right Act. Our farmers produce variety of plants through various scientific or unscientific way, plants are many new plants varieties comes up because of hybridization, because of species evolution. So these are also protected, under this act, Protection of Plant Variety Farmers Right Act of 2001. So these are this becomes an intellectual property of the farmers who develops it, or he can sell this intellectual property right to any other breeder or researcher or any other farmers. So whosoever develops this kind of a plant, he can just register under a simple registration act, and that becomes his property, and no person can patent it. So these are the few of the issues about the legality and about the UNCPD. I think if you have any question, I'm ready to take it up. And if you want to have any other more session on the forestry, biodiversity, or wildlife, or other convention, I'll be happy to share again.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. May I request the participants that if you have any question, please do ask them. Sir, being the focal, national point for the UNCCD, so if I would ask a question like, our university is in the semi-arid biogeographic zone, where the efforts have been put into, at the local level, at the Bundelkhand region. So do we have a window to submit, like-minded proposals for the UNCCD? So what would be the mechanism for that?
UNCCD doesn't fund any project, like UNFCCC. You have a Green Climate Fund and other things, and through JEF and other things are there. So UNCCD doesn't have that kind of a funding, but we have a funding through JEF. So if there is any area that need to be taken up as a pilot project, so that can be taken up under the JEF projects, like food, land use and restoration project, flora impact projects are there. So that can come in it. Apart from that, if there's a real pilot project, we can always see how that it can be funded through some organization within the ministry. If it is agriculture, I think the agriculture ministry can take up. It is a forestry activity, the environment ministry can take up. So we'll just see what is the project like, but the UNCCD doesn't have that kind of funding to fund a project.
Sure, sir. So, sure, sir, sure. I got the point. So basically, for example, like we have recently conducted a very small scale pilot study within the campus on the ecological restoration. So natural regeneration and the agroforestry combined together have shown some promising results. So if you would like to replicate such kind of a model at a bigger scale in the Bundelkhand region, do we have the scope of submitting a proposal on that?
We will sit together and see how it can be best fitted to which program of the ministry. So I think
sure,
we can always take it up. If there's a promising project, we can always scale it up.
Sure, sir. That's really encouraging words. I would request the participants once again, if they have more questions, please, they can ask them.
I started late, but I finished on nick of time, so that my whole presentation was made in a way that it finishes at time.
Certainly, sir. Certainly. So, sir, it was really a wonderful session taken up by you. And on behalf of the Banda University of Agriculture and Technology, sir, we express our sincere gratitude to you. Within a very stipulated time and of short notice, you could make a wonderful presentation and benefited all of us with your incredible and vast knowledge. And sir, of course, in future, whenever we are upcoming, having similar kind of academic and professional programs, we expect from you that you will, always benefit and guide us with your knowledge. So with these words, sir, thank you very much, and we look forward to your similar cooperation and guidance.
Thank you so much.
Take care, sir. Good day, sir. Have a good day.
Good day, bye.
Bye, sir. So, dear participants, it was really a wonderful session by Takpa Saab. And as the schedule goes, we have already shared the minute-to-minute program with you. Please be more interactive, enthusiastic during the valedictory session. Because we have put all the efforts from the organizing committee side that we do not want to make it hanging around and the validity would be, happen a few days later. That is why we want, and we really want it, I really mean it, that, our validity should be, on the same day and as we have planned. That is why the chief guest and the chairman himself, the Honorable Vice Chancellor, the chief guest is Dr. Amresh Chandra Sahab, the Director IGFRI, will be joining us at 3. I will open the session at 14:50 hours. So please be sure, and please, it's a humble request once again, please make yourself visible because it will be chaired by very senior persons at the university and outside the university as well. And we look forward to your valuable feedback during the time of the session, as well as we will be sharing in a couple of days the Google form for your feedback. Based on that, we will issue the certificates, and then the 21 days training program will be over. So if you have any question pertaining to the training course, you may ask them now, because in the evening we may not be having time for another taking up the questions from you.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm
Yeah.
here, Dr. Amarjeet.
Yeah,
Am I
please,
audible or
Dr.
not?
Amarjeet.
Yeah,
Yeah, please.